I am. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 307 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to restraining orders.
Senator Pavley.
Yes, thank you very much. Members, this item passed out with bipartisan support out of the Public Safety Committee. There's no known opposition. It's sponsored by the LA District Attorney's Office. This bill is intended to provide and increase public safety to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. It clarifies that sentencing judges have the authority to impose a criminal protective order when a defendant is sentenced to mandatory supervision for a domestic violence or serious sex offense. Under California's realignment law, AB 109, many criminal offenders were shifted from state prisons to local jails or mandatory supervision in communities throughout California, the split sentencing provisions. The law already allows judges to issue protective orders when the defendant is sentenced to prison, county jail, or probation. This bill addresses an omission and gives sentencing judges the ability to protect all victims from abuse, including those sent to mandatory supervision once these offenders return to our streets. SB 307 is part of our ongoing efforts to make California a safer place by stopping violent crime before it occurs. I urge your aye vote for this measure.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The measure passes. File item 38, Senator Vidak. Are you prepared to take up this item? Great. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 269 by Senator Vidak, an act relating to conservatorship.
Senator Vidak.
Mr. President and members, I rise today to present Senate Bill 269, which would allow individuals who are successful in their petitions for appointment of a conservator to seek reimbursement. Current law allows for reimbursement of any fees and costs associated with the filing of an unsuccessful petition for conservatorship, but does not afford reimbursement to those who are successful in their petition. This lack of reimbursement may deter family members from filing the petition before the court. This bill has received unanimous support and has no known opposition. I ask for your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The measure passes. File item 39, Senator Jackson, not at her desk. File item 41, Senator Block. Pass on file. File item 42, Senator Leyva. Senator Leyva? Pass on file. File item 43, Senator Hancock. Not at her desk. File item 44, pass on file. File item 45, Senator Bell. Pass on file. File item 46, Senator Pavley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 204 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to state parks.
Yes, very much. Thank you very much. This bill, Senate Bill 204, is really a relatively modest proposal that comes from the legislature's bipartisan work. We've had several hearings regarding the Department of Parks and Recreation. It also builds off some of the recommendation from the Parks Forward Commission, which was established by the legislature over 18 months ago, and they've been working very hard to come up with a report. It's an amazing group of volunteers who are experts who've come from across the state in how to make our state parks more sustainable, not just for their core mission of protecting resources, but on the financial end as well. What this bill does is begins the process of implementing some of those recommendations. It also looked at other programs and possibilities that the state parks could look at in order to become more financially sustainable. It directs the department to identify energy projects that could reduce greenhouse gas emissions and therefore perhaps become eligible to apply for auction revenues. It also looks at a trial program relating to some modification of the CEQA process, but this is for just adopting general plans for state parks, not for any project-specific development. That would require a separate review, of course. Many of the provisions in this bill target one of the central recommendations of the Parks Forward Commission, and that's to facilitate better relationship and cooperation with nonprofits. And there's a variety of measures that will accomplish that objective. I tend to continue to work on this bill along with my counterpart in the Assembly as we work with the Parks Forward recommendations as well as the administration on behalf of our state parks. Ask for your aye vote.
Members, a better discussion on this item. Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the Senate, I rise in support of Senator Pavley's legislation. It's long overdue to effect some changes in this long-troubled department. About 3 years ago, everything was falling apart. Obviously, the state budget was contributing somewhat to the problems, but there were internal ones that had grown up over a long time. This bill is a work in progress. It will need some more working. I hope it gets stronger and more provisions and opportunities inculcated in it as it is moving back to us from the Assembly. I look forward to receiving it for concurrence. I would emphasize that the state parks are going to have to get out of the attitude of going it alone and doing it our way, and they're going to have to look at creating more partnerships. I think that's part of what Senator Pavley has started here. I'd like to see that section of the bill strengthened as it's over in the Assembly. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Any additional debate or discussion on this item? Would our esteemed colleague from Southern California like to close? 1 second. Perfect. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. Aye. Galgioni. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leyba. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Aye. Morrell. Wynn. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Aye. Stone. Vidak. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Canella. Morrell. No. Stone.
Ayes 35, noes 2. The measure passes. Moving to file item 47, pass on file. File item 48, Senator Morrell, not at his desk. File item 49, Senator Leno, not at his desk. File item 50, Senator Bates, pass on file. File item 51, Senator Hueso, not at his desk. File item 52, Senator Hueso, pass on file. File item 53, Senator Monning. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 17 by Senator Monning, an act relating to taxation.
Senator Monning.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 17 extends the sunset date of the California Sea Otter Fund to January 1st, 2021. This fund was established in 2006 and has since been extended one time. Throughout its history, the fund has met its minimum contribution level each year. The money raised goes to the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the California Coastal Conservancy to support researchers in their efforts to study and protect the threatened population of sea otters in California. Members, today there are fewer than 3,000 sea otters that exist. There's been no opposition on this bill. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. I. Gaines. No. Galgiani. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Hueso. I. Huff. Jackson. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. I. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Jackson, aye. Canella. Huff. I. Morrell. I. Stone.
Ayes 35, noes 2. The measure passes. Moving to file item 54, Senator Hernandez. Pass on file. File item 55, Senator Hernandez. Pass on file. File item 56, Senator Nguyen. Pass on file. File item 57, Senator Galgiani. Pass on file. File item 58, Senator Galgiani. Pass on file. File item 59, Senator Nielsen. Are you prepared to take up this item? Perfect. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 44 by Senator Nielsen relative to Crime Victims' Rights Week.
Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I've kind of already introduced this bill through the introduction of crime victims leader Harriet Salerno and Harriet Salerno Ashford. I urge your aye vote to acknowledge these crime victims and ask that as we do this, and as we vote yes, we remember, for victims, there's only one thing, there's justice. In the criminal justice system, it is about justice, meaning due process for the accused. That's a key component. Then it has to be the concern for the victim after the accused is convicted, if they are. What happened to them, what happened to their loved one, their acquaintance who they were with, and what has happened to society because of it. I'm reminded of Cameron Hooker, who held imprisonment in Red Bluff, California for 7 years, right in the middle of town, a young woman. We celebrated her 2 weeks ago. That victim is condemned forever to suffer for those 10 years. Her freedom was denied her by Cameron Hooker.
Members, debate or discussion on this item. Senator Morrell.
Thank you, members. Today I rise in support of SCR 44. One of the core responsibilities of government is to keep people safe. Everyone should feel secure in their homes and neighborhoods. Unfortunately, crime is a reality in our world. We do our best to comfort victims and their families, but we can only do so much. That's why it is important for crime victims to know how to seek justice, and access to the criminal justice system is one of our most sacred constitutional rights. Therefore, I am pleased that Senator Nielsen has brought forward this important resolution. I'm proud to support the recognition of Crime Victims' Rights Week. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, additional debate or discussion on this item. Senator Nielsen, would you like to close?
Urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Secretary, is there, members, any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, we're going to move to Assembly third reading. We're going to go to the items that we have identified a floor jockey for. We're going to go to file item 63. Senator Galgiani, are you prepared to take up this item? Pass on file. File item 64, Senator Block. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 39 by Assemblymember Nababne relative to Financial Aid and Literacy Month.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to present ACR 39 on behalf of Assemblyman Nababne, which declares the month of April as Financial Aid and Literacy Month with a theme of prosperity through education. ACR 39 is intended to raise public awareness about the continuing needs for increased financial literacy. It highlights the importance of learning to manage money effectively, the difficulty many Californians face when it comes to saving money, and the impact debt can have on individuals and families. ACR 39 supplements the efforts of numerous public and private organizations that offer financial literacy education and other financial literacy tools. I respectfully request your aye vote to declare the month of April as Financial Aid and Literacy Month.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0, the resolution is adopted. Members, moving to file item 66. Senator Bell, you prepared to take up this item? Secretary, please read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 24 by Assemblymember Chu, relative to Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it's great pleasure I present this Assembly Concurrent Resolution 24, authored by Assemblymember Kansan Chu. This resolution recognizes April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Now, child abuse and neglect remain an epidemic that the state cannot ignore. According to UC Berkeley Center for Social Services Research, 84,000 children in California were found to be victims of child abuse. The effects are devastating. Many victims suffer from an array of health and behavioral issues, such as depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, and suicide and other chronic diseases. This is a necessary measure that would increase awareness and encourage communities to work together to combat the emotional and physical damage that occurs as a result of abuse. I ask for an aye vote, and thank you for your attention.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0, the resolution is adopted. Moving to file item 67. Senator McGuire. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 32 by Assemblymember Bloom, relative to California Craft Beverage Month.
Senator McGuire.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. And Senators, I rise to present ACR 32, which declares this month of April 2015 as a California Craft Beverage Month. As we heard earlier last week, California is home to 520 small, independently owned craft breweries, 425 independently owned wineries, and 50 artisanal distilleries. Beer, wine, and distilled spirits tourism is increasingly popular and contributes to the economic impact of California's tourist industry. And in fact, craft brewers alone had a $5.5 billion economic impact in the state. And the other piece is the California craft industry is a leader in stewardship as well. The industry has made a major commitment to implement sustainable practices, including some of the largest solar arrays in the state, as well as significant water conservation. Mr. President, I request an aye vote.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on this item? Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, if you have not availed yourself of going to a craft brewery, please do so. You know, Napa and Sonoma that I used to represent were the pioneers in wine tasting. A wonderful experience for those who love wine or will come to love wine. And the same is so related to these craft beers. Many are very small ones. Some have grown to be magnificent, like Sierra Nevada Brewery that I represent in Chico. And that brewery has been a leader in being environmentally sensitive, a good partner in many ways in its community. They run on solar, and they market some of the very best beer, but they market it in a family way. And that's the key. The big breweries are okay. They're mass-produced and mass-marketed and mass-advertised. But these craft breweries have a very unique taste to their various brews. They are important in California. We need to acknowledge and support them. And remember, they are the epitome and the example of what we all ought to aspire to, entrepreneurship. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. We'll take that as an invitation to your district. Would the distinguished gentleman from Hillsburg like to close?
I tip a glass of Racer 5 from Bear Republic to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Secretary. Oh, is there objection to utilizing our unanimous roll call, members? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The resolution is adopted. Members, moving to file item 68. Senator De Leon. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 158 by Assemblymember O'Donnell, enacting school finance.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise to present AB 158 by Mr. Patrick O'Donnell from Long Beach, which renames the statutory provisions of Proposition 98 for its creator, Mr. John Mockler. As many of you know, Mr. John Mockler recently just passed away from cancer at the age of 73. While this bill honors him for his signature achievement, Proposition 98, the funding formula for K through 14 schools, John was far more than that. He was a policy as well as political guru, a friend, a father, a scratch golfer, and an irascible raconteur. He was, in fact, a great storyteller. He was also a mentor to many who work in the Capitol community today. As one of my senior staff told me just recently, John was the gold standard for staff. He always took the time, he always delivered a lesson, and he never made you feel stupid for asking a question. John's bio is impressive, and his influence on education policy is unprecedented. Consultant to the Assembly Education Ways and Means Committee back then when it was both appropriations as well as budget combined. Deputy Chief of Staff to then Speaker Willie Brown. Executive Director to the State Board of Education. Governor Gray Davis's Education Secretary, and of course, in his last years of his life, advisor to the California Teachers Association, many school districts throughout California, and so many other world school finance. So it is fitting, colleagues, that we rename Proposition 98 after John Mockler. With that, Mr. President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Members, the better discussion on this item. Senator Nielsen.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise in heartfelt support of naming Prop 98 for John Mockler. He truly was a great leader for education. I loved Senator De Leon's reference as an irascible raconteur. It certainly does describe John Mockler to me. But it may imply a guy who was too much out front in the news. Well, he really wasn't. He stayed in the background. And he was one of the very few on this earth that understood the arcane world of school finance. And if you want to look at that in the Ed Code, just try to wade through some of the provisions of Prop 98. John knew those and was an architect of them. And public education benefited for his service. We all have benefited for his service and his example here. He was indeed a good man, a leader, and an architect for education. It's great that we can honor John Mockler.
Thank you. Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator De Leon, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr. President. As well as colleagues, I was just reminded, quite interestingly, as we face this conundrum, this dilemma with Prop 98 and non-98 and all the budgets, the economy really moving forward, economic job growth accelerating, except we're in this interesting conundrum where we have less money in the non-98 side as opposed to the 98 side. Quite interestingly, when John Mockler drafted this measure and moved it forward, it's constitutional because it was at the will of the voters of California. It was not as complicated as it is today. So when we talk about the test 1, test 2, the maintenance of factor, it was actually our own colleagues on both sides of the aisle and both sides of the chambers back in the day that complicated Prop 98. So it surely wasn't John Mockler, but we owe John Mockler a great debt of gratitude for his policy acumen and how he really has helped shape our public school financing in California. With that, Mr. President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Secretary, please call. Members, with that, is there any objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call on this item? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0, the measure passes. Senator DeLeon, would you like to move to governor's appointments? Members, we're moving to governor's appointments. That's file item 21.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, before us is file item number 21, governor's appointments. These are appointments for members of the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. These appointees were heard in the Rules Committee on April 8th and approved in a bipartisan manner on a 5-0 vote. There was no opposition. The governor has appointed 6 dynamic women to the commission, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary. We have Lori Damrell, who is an employment attorney, Gina Davis, the actress, Marina Illich, a PhD consultant, Karen Nelson, a chief operating officer, Alicia Wilkins, a public affairs manager, and Major Ophelia Willis, medical doctor with the United States Army National Guard. Each of these women bring different perspectives, different experiences to the commission, and are committed to carrying out the mission of the members of the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. With that, Mr. President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, the better discussion on this item. Senator Jackson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I, too, rise in support of these nominees. The Commission on the Status of Women is now poised as a result of finally bringing forward the names of public members. In fact, for many years, there have been no public members on this commission. We are poised to see the work that can and should be done to advance the interests of women and girls in the state of California. Each of these wonderful women brings to the table extraordinary, diverse, but successful experience. And I've been honored to serve with these women as they await confirmation. They will make a great contribution from all different perspectives to the advancement of women. And I want to thank the governor for making these appointments. As we move forward with an agenda that will create a stronger California by advancing economic opportunity for all women, this is an integral component of the debate and the discussion on what it's going to take to bring women to parity with our male colleagues, to make sure that the interests of all Californians are properly represented. And these women, as I mentioned, come to us with a diversity of experience, perspectives, ideologies, although committed to advancing the cause for women and children in California. And on that basis, I would urge your aye vote on these appointments.
Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none. Oh, Senator Anderson.
I'm a little disappointed in the commission. You know, recently the SACB reported that women are underpaid in the Capitol. Here it is under our very noses, and yet this commission is supposed to be focused on women and children, and I'm disappointed that they haven't looked at the wages that are paid to women under this dome. So I am conflicted on whether I should reward them to continue in this commission if they're not taking on serious issues like underpaying women within the Capitol. Thank you.
Members, additional debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? Aye. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? Aye. Block? Aye. Canella? De Leon? Aye. Fuller? Aye. Gaines? Aye. Galgiani? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leyva? Liu? Aye. Leyva, aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Monning? Aye. Morlock? Aye. Morrell? Aye. Wynn? Aye. Nilsson? Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Runner? Aye. Stone? Vidak? I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Canella. Huff. Mitchell. I. Nilsson. I. Stone.
Ayes 35, noes 1. The appointments are confirmed in. Members, before we go to the consent calendar, we're going to return quickly to privileges of the floor. Senator Hueso.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. Today we're very privileged and honored to have one of Mexico's most influential community leaders with us here today. Joining us is the former mayor of Atlacomulco, State of Mexico, Mayor Arturo Peña del Mazo. He is currently the president of the Isidro Favela Cultural Foundation, which works to promote cultural arts, civics education, and education in general. He is the guest here in our state of the Latin Business Association, whose chairman is Ruben Guerra, who's also here present. We want to welcome him. He is also known to be the he's the uncle of the current president of Mexico, President Enrique Peña Nieto. So I'd like to give him a warm welcome today.
Thank you. Bienvenidos a Sacramento, bienvenidos al Senado Estatal. Welcome to your California State Senate. Members still under privileges of the floor. Give a second. Senator Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm delighted to also introduce some other important guests. Elaine Holt and Martin Lewis with their 4th grade classes from Wildwood Elementary School in Piedmont. Welcome to Wildwood Elementary School.
Welcome to the California State Senate. I hope you're learning a lot today. Members, we're going to move to the consent calendar. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 241, 260, 299, 436, SCR 2, and SCR 12.
Members, is there objection to utilizing our previous unanimous roll call on the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 37, no 0. The measures are adopted. Members, we are now returning to motions and resolutions. This is the time for adjourn in memories. Senator Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to request that we adjourn in memory of Don Hinkle, one of the last survivors of the famed Battle of Iwo Jima and other Pacific actions during World War II. He passed away on April 11, 2015 at home, surrounded by his wife Lorraine, his children, and his grandchildren. Don was 98, and until his death was considered the oldest Marine paratrooper survivor of the struggle for Iwo Jima. Although Don suffered a leg wound during the battle, he refused to apply for a Purple Heart because he considered the wound minor and because the bullet went on to strike and kill a first lieutenant. He also didn't want to frighten his pregnant wife. Besides Iwo Jima, Don was also at Choiseul Island under Charles Krulak, who later would become the commandant of the Marine Corps. Marines were rescued from the island by PT boats, and Don told his family and others a story that as he was trying to board a PT boat, a coxswain told him it was too full, but a young captain intervened, a captain with a Boston accent. The captain of the boat reprimanded the coxswain and turned to Don and said, "You better get your arse on her now, Leatherneck, or you'll be fighting the Japanese in about 15 minutes. The PT boat's captain was named Jack, and Don and family firmly believe it was John F. Kennedy. A few years after the war, Don and Lorraine moved from South Dakota to Bonita, where they became very active in their community. Don and Lorraine formed an inseparable team for more than 70 years, opening their hearts and home to foster children, hungry neighbors, 4-Hers, and their church. Don retired as an assistant chief with the fire department at a helicopter base in Imperial Beach. Together, Don and Lorraine reared 6 children and enjoyed their numerous grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-granddaughter and other extended family. We extend our condolences to the wife, family, and friends of this modest family man, an American hero, and a member of our greatest generation.
Thank you, Senator Block. Please bring his name forward so he can be properly memorialized. Members, any additional adjourned memories? We'll move quickly to announcements, budget announcements today. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President. For purpose of announcement,
Without objection.
thank you. Senate Budget Subcommittee 3 will meet in hearing room 4203 at 10:30.
Thank you. Senator Block.
Budget Sub 1 will meet in 3191 at 10:30.
Senator Roth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Budget Subcommittee 4 will meet in room 2040 at 10:30.
Thank you. Senator Wolk.
Subcommittee 2 for Resources will meet in 112 at 10:30.
Senator Hancock.
Sub 5, Budget Sub 5 will meet at 10:15 in room 113.
Thank you. There appears to be no more business before us. Senator De Leon, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, safe travels back home. Have a very productive weekend, work and family. We will convene our session Monday at 2 o'clock. Safe travels again back home.
Thank you. Members, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday at 2 p.m.